Welcome everybody back to Brown and Browner, the later in the week edition, where we go over the predictions for the week and a little bit of NFL recap from this week to give you our thoughts on the upcoming kind of playoff runs for each team, hopefully, and then also maybe even touch on college football playoffs since they kick off tonight, actually, across the board.
That's right.
Yep. Now, as far as there was a game last night, really good game, mind you. It was the Broncos and the Chargers, divisional game. It was honestly for a line on the playoffs, which is going to be a nice little battle in the AFC West underneath the Chiefs there. Raise your hand if you had anybody other than Gus Edwards on your fantasy bingo card that actually scored last night, because it was a high-scoring affair, but I can't tell you many people on that lineup that actually were on your fantasy lineup.
I was thinking the same thing. It's like, wow, why didn't I have that running back on my squad?
Yep.
Because all year long they haven't done crap.
Exactly. There's literally, I forgot that's like I saw a blank on ESPN or some other channel, and it literally had like Gus Edwards 2 touchdowns and like 6 other touchdowns by guys you ain't even heard of.
Yeah, no one.
Which bravo to them, but
and just something that I wanted to say to all of those fantasy owners like myself who unfortunately didn't get to the bye stage of the playoffs and had to play that extra game last week. It sucks because I ended up losing, even though I had like the second highest point total, or maybe third highest point total in our league. I had no chance. I got blown out by 40 points last week. So I hate to say it, but I'm sure there are a lot of other fantasy owners that suffered the same fate that I did. One note I wanted to put out about that game, and this to me highlights the differences in how you coach. And I'll set the baseline with Eberflus never knowing how, before he got fired, and other coaches too, not knowing how to manage the clock appropriately at the end of the halves.
Right.
So last night, there was a punt by the Denver Broncos, which was, to be fair, caught by the San Diego punt returner. The edge, what do you call it? The flyer ended up hitting him and preventing him from being able to catch the ball. He was right around the San Diego 35 to 40 yard line, something like that. And because he did that, it was a personal foul, 15-yard penalty. And Jim Harbaugh, a lot of people saying about college coach, he didn't know how to coach. I tell you what, he's one of the smartest coaches you have out there. He showed that in San Francisco when he was there previously, showed it in Michigan, and he's showing it right now because he's revived the whole vibe that the San Diego, there'll always be the San Diego Chargers, LA Chargers have versus where they were last year and the year before. But he used a very rarely known rule in football.
1976 was the last time it was used.
Which is almost 50 years ago, where he opted to be able to take a free kick, which was at the 53-yard line, which would be, it was a 53-yard kick, so their own 47-yard line.
Yep.
Now, with the free kick, you can't line up to block it. So therefore, the additional 7 to 8 yards that most kickers use as space to be able to elevate the ball above the line doesn't apply here.
Exactly.
They were losing at the time. I think it was 24-10.
Yep.
And with basically no time remaining, and this was the fault of the Broncos too, because they were passing the ball in their own zone. They could have ran it 3 times and run the clock out, but they didn't. Sean Payton. They were able to kick a field goal. What's their kicker? Dicker the kicker.
Yeah.
Dicker the kicker. Boy, there's a lot of lines I could use now, but I'm going to keep this more kid-friendly. Kick this 53-yard field goal. Now, it may have seemed insignificant had the Broncos actually shown up in the second half, but it was critical because what it did was it added 3 points to the board. They were only down 11 now. But more importantly, it gave them something to rally around when they had that conversation at halftime. So you woke up the bear, and then in the second half, Denver scored 3, and it was at the very end of the game that they got that 3 for the rest of the game, and San Diego basically blew them out. Don't let the score fool you. It wasn't like 7. There was nothing that Denver was doing the entire second half. This is what this is what a coach provides. When they talk about wins and losses, most of that are the people on the field. Yeah, you can tell them what to do, but they need to execute. But this is where a coach really provides their value.
Yes.
And he helped to win that game by just understanding the rules, putting his team in the best position to win, and being able to use the clock in the right way to be able to get his team to victory. So kudos to Jim Harbaugh. I don't care what they say about his quirkiness. And the Bears didn't want him because he would have stood up to the McCaskies, and they don't like that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
because he's a football guy. He knows what he's talking about. They want somebody who doesn't really know what they're talking about, so they can get paid a little bit less, last a little bit longer, and we don't have to worry about you putting up any crap.
Exactly. No, it was refreshing to see someone who understands the game and use the rules to make it happen. Like, that was awesome. That's where I give, families like the Harbaughs credit in general. I mean, it's a historic family that knows how to play football and understands the game. And honestly, I don't want to dare say it saved the playoff picture for the Chargers, but if you think about it, they now have like a 98% chance of making the playoffs because of that big win.
Exactly. And Denver would have actually been automatic in the playoffs last night. So the game really meant a lot to them. But apparently Sean Payton didn't understand how to utilize the clock effectively to manage that and win.
Well, and like you said, second half momentum. That was huge. That field goal, the free kick, honestly turned the tide in the game because the Broncos were having their way in the first half. They were leveraging,
smacking them around like it was nothing. They were scoring all over the place, driving the ball. It was like a tale of two halves, where the second half, everything was flipped.
Yep.
Denver couldn't do a darn thing.
Good thing.
Yep. And San Diego was going up and down the field at will and scoring and turning the ball, getting turnovers from their defense and sacking the quarterback. It was just amazing. And again, I get my hat off to Jim Harbaugh, because that's what a coach truly does. All of the other coaches, if you think about it, if you pull them all together, they should have sort of all about the basic same understanding and knowledge. And it's how you impact the game, how you utilize your timeouts, how you, we talk about in-game management,
and making those changes.
Make the changes on the fly as you see the changes in their defense or offense. He did that to perfection in the second half.
100% agree. No, I couldn't say anymore, because San Diego and Denver are going to be tough outs for folks in the playoffs. Those defenses are legit.
They got defense.
They're legit. So I was glad to kind of see that game. It was surprising to see it being as high scoring as it was on both offensive ends. But hey, credit also to Bo Nix for putting up the numbers. No questions asked. That dude's doing a hell of a job as a rookie, to say the least.
He sure is. And probably should be considered for Rookie of the Year. I know a lot of talk has been going to Jalen, and even some going to Caleb, just because he was the first pick of the draft. But I don't think anybody's more deserving than him, because nobody had on their radar that Denver was going to do this, especially after the Russell Wilson fiasco the year prior. So kudos.
No, like I said,
Bo knows, baby.
Bo knows. They're going to market that guy.
Well, we talked about it. If he wants to market himself, I don't know if Bo Ricks is still in play here, or if they're still business, but he should be the guy that would be Bo Nix.
Yep.
There you go, baby.
That is right. No, like I said, great game overall, but I wouldn't want to be I think, what is it? You'd have to be a potentially 3 or 4 seed that you're going to be seeing one of these teams. It's going to be a tough matchup. So, hopefully my Chiefs can make it out and get the bye, because they badly need it, but we'll get to here in a second as well. But when you're Buffalo, when you're Baltimore, these two teams could be interesting. They could stop you guys.
Pittsburgh. Because if Pittsburgh wins this weekend, they actually win the AFC North. Whoever put money, everybody in Pittsburgh who was a steadfast Steelers fan and put some money out there where your mouth was, kudos to you, because I don't know what the odds are, but if they win the division, you're going to make some real money.
That's so true and so scary at the same time.
Well, it's sort of like, I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, if you follow soccer, in the Premier League, Leicester City.
Leicester City
came out of nowhere. They were closer to regulation than anything else. And they won the Premier League, and there were people there, because who is the brokerage house, Berkeley or Lads or whatever it is over in England. They had them at like some stupid, like ridiculous odds, like 100,000 to 1 or something, or 1,000 to 1. And if you or maybe it was more than that. So I'm sure there were people from that town who put $100 on it, $100
Absolutely.
on it, and ended up being, millionaires if it was 100,001. And they
Yep.
had to change the odds structure because of that. So they
Because of
didn't
that.
want to, like, broke them because there were just too many people who
Yeah.
actually put money on that ridiculous, odd and essentially won. So
I mean, I call it a product of the soccer betting system. You know how bad it is, and you've seen it, obviously.
I put a couple of bets on soccer.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But kudos to the Steelers fans. If
Yes.
you're a real fan, you got to feel proud of your Steelers because Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches in the league, never won an MVP and never had a losing season.
That's what's scary. The man has not had a losing season. Name me a coach in any sport.
Ever. I maybe one. Can't remember his name, can see his face, who coached the Atlanta Braves. Remember back when the Atlanta Braves won their division like 10 years in a row or something like that?
Yep.
That would be one of the few, and it probably would have to be baseball. I can't think of any other sport.
Yes.
Maybe hockey, like the Edmonton Oilers or
Possibly the Oilers,
New York Islanders of Mike Bossy days.
Yep.
But you weren't seeing teams be that consistent.
No.
Even the dynastic teams, heck, the Hawks were dynastic for about 6 years, and they've been on the bottom ever since those 6 years. You just don't see that.
Exactly. No, I don't disagree. No.
All right, let's hit it. Let's hit it. P Square.
Let's
go do this.
Up here. Let me tee up our scheduling here. I think the first game is honestly the Chiefs. so
the first game I got is the Chiefs as well.
So quick tidbit. So I'm actually heading out to Dallas to visit my brother for the weekend and for the next week for Christmas. So we're going to a game at a place called Cosm. I don't know if you've heard about it, all of you folks, yet. So if you know what the Vegas Sphere is these days, basically there's a sports company out there that created this thing called Cosm, C-O-S-M. It's basically a version of that just for sports, where it's a sports bar. They've set up tiered seating in a stadium fashion, and they've created an overarched, stadium profile for the screen, kind of almost like an IMAX theater, if you will.
I was thinking that. Yep.
Right? Where you're not just sitting and watching the game as if you were on TV with the same view. You're field level watching the game as if you're in the end zone or the line or the whatever it is, like parallel, almost if you had like better than 100 level seats basically at a stadium or even front row seats, and you're watching this entire game. So the place just opened up 3 months ago. We actually saw the construction over it last summer when I went to Texas. And I'm looking forward to that experience, especially for the Chiefs game in Dallas, because there's a good healthy amount of, KC fans over there historically and everything else.
Houston, isn't it? Oh, no. Oh, you're going to be watching it in Dallas.
I'm going to be in Dallas, but the game is in Houston.
Kansas City.
The game is in Kansas City. So the game is in Kansas City. But it'll be fun to see that, for the level of camaraderie. Now, that said, it is a huge sports day on Saturday. Huge. Between
college,
NFL, everything.
Yeah. and the games that they have, if you think about it, not so much college. I mean, the college games they're starting the playoffs.
Yep.
But look at the pro games that are slated for tomorrow. You got
the biggest games of the week.
Texans.
So Chiefs Texans. Let's hit it off the bat.
Let's hit that, and then you got the Steelers.
Pat Mahomes has been practicing. Pat Mahomes is going to play. You know why? Because if the Chiefs can win these two games, which are going to be very tough, you got the Texans and you got the Steelers. Pat Mahomes got 2.5 weeks off.
Well, and it's funny because I was listening to Get Up earlier this morning, and they were saying that they felt that the Chiefs should rest Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry. If you rest him this week and now you're chasing, because if Buffalo wins, aren't they tied? And then Buffalo has the tiebreaker because they beat the Chiefs?
Correct.
So why would you rest him now and possibly lose that advantage versus if he can play through 2 games, okay, Carson Wentz, whatever. Yeah. If he can play through 2 games and they win, then he can get 2 weeks worth of rest versus 1.
Well, think about it this way. You're going to take a good roll of the dice here because you're playing against a Texans team that honestly has been on the decline a little bit. They weren't as, not as good as they were at the beginning of the year and anything like that. And they've lost a few pieces here and there. So why not take the shot as a Chiefs to beat the team that you probably should beat, the Texans? And then let's say, God forbid, if somehow Buffalo falls this week, hey, you open up another scenario where next week you could rest Pat Mahomes against the Steelers team, if you need to. So why not?
And to add to that, let's say that the Chiefs do win and the Steelers beat Baltimore, who's the second game on the slate tomorrow. Yep. Now, do the Steelers really have to play for anything?
Exactly, because they're essentially a lock for a 3, at best of 2, but they're going to have to hope for help from Buffalo to get it. So again, same scenario. Absolutely. Yep.
Right. I'd rest all my guys, TJ Watt, especially since he's been injured.
That
so
defense.
Again, if you really look at this, I think Andy Reid made the right decision.
Yes.
Patrick Holmes is always going to want to play regardless on one leg or not.
He's a baller.
Yeah. So let's look, all of these other guys saying, oh, well, no, rest Patrick Mahomes this week. I don't think you actually thought this out. That was more of a, I'm afraid my star is going to get hurt approach versus I'm afraid.
Well, I'll give you some reassurance. I mean, it's high ankle sprain, so we know that. Obviously, it looked kind of a little worse than it was, which is, I'm glad that he's got his ankles taped up that high. Thank God.
Yeah, but high ankle sprains are a mother, boy. They're hard to recover from. Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing is, I don't know if you watched a bit of the Texas-Georgia game, college football. So Quinn
just
Ewers,
a little bit. That was what, a couple weeks ago, or
just a couple weeks ago. So Quinn Ewers had a similar injury throughout the year where he was kind of nagging high ankle sprain. He had this pretty cool ankle boot that he used because he played the rest of the year, obviously, for the for the Longhorns. He had this pretty cool ankle boot that they were showcasing during the game. I'm thinking that Patrick Holmes is probably going to be fashioning something very similar. It provided just enough stiffness along that shaft of his leg, where even if he gets hit
and everything else,
it should be okay and shouldn't snap it in half, God forbid, or something scary. But it's going to limit his mobility. We know that. But that's where the O-line's got to come into play. Now, here's my problem with the Chiefs this weekend. Again, DJ Humphries injured again, even though we've acquired this guy. We need a left tackle.
We do need a left tackle.
Joe Tooney cannot play left tackle. The guy is built for the middle. That's why we run so well up the middle. We need a shore up on the left side. So I'm hoping there's enough protection. I'm going to predict 10-point game for the Chiefs, hopefully. So we're playing at home. Interesting X factor. We have a man named Hollywood Brown who's back. Not Hollywood, California. Hollywood, Miami.
So wait, Marquise Brown is actually back this week?
Marquise Brown is finally back after his year-long respite of whatever he does these days. I've never bought into the guy even when he was in Baltimore.
When he was in Baltimore, he flopped. But he's supposed to be able to stretch the field, which Worthy isn't doing the best job of this year.
Worthy isn't. So that's where I'm hoping. If you've got two speedsters on the outside, does that finally open up Hopkins a little bit more?
And Kelsey.
Possession receiving. And Kelsey, yes. So I'm hoping there's more targets to throw to, and Patton doesn't have to necessarily take the hits and things like that in the backfield. And more importantly, we need the run game. Just like my colleague here said on this week, we need the run game. We need Mr. Hunt. We need Mr. Pacheco. They need to do their job.
And that's what I'm hoping to see, more so than what you were saying with the addition of Hollywood B. If we can get the running game going, if we can establish that and move the line of scrimmage, you won't have to worry about stretching the field, and you will be possessing the ball more and running the clock down. So if by chance Stroud all of a sudden figures out how to get back to his freshman performance, they won't have that many opportunities.
Yep. No, like I said, that's the reason I like the Chiefs by 10, hopefully. It'll be interesting to see if CJ Stroud can continue to throw as well as he has the last couple games. I think our secondary is a little bit, suspect right now.
A little suspect. There have been some guys running around just wide the F open.
This will be a good preview for the playoffs, in my opinion, because you got a Texans team that, again, could sneak into the playoffs just as well.
I don't think they're sneaking.
Well, what I'm saying is they're going to be a 4 seed, Yeah.
They're going to win their division. Who else is in their division doing anything?
Well, what I'm saying is they're going to have a tough out. Whoever they have to host first round, it's going to be the likes of a Chargers, a Broncos.
True that.
We could be seeing, this rematch in another 4 weeks, but I'll give it to the Chiefs for now.
I'm with you on that. 100% agree. I think the game's going to be closer than you think, but I do feel like being in Kansas City is always an advantage.
Yep.
And I think that if the defense can at least play well enough, like you were saying, I think we've had some deficiencies on the back end. But if they can bend and don't break and get 3 points here and there, and we run the ball effectively, I see it being a game. It's weird to say this because, a year ago I would say every game the Chiefs would score 30, but I think the game's going to be more like a 24-20.
I like your prediction too. I'm still picking a 10-point win, but I'm thinking more like 24-14. I think we're going to limit Stroud a little bit, enough to basically he's not going to get the ball out enough because I think our edge rushers will finally come through in the clutch. That's my hope anyway.
I hope for that. And the other thing that I think works in the Chiefs' favor when we're talking injuries, I have Mixon on my fantasy team in another league where I had a bye, so I couldn't lose the first round. And Mixon is hurt. So I think he has an ankle injury as well. So I think that may slow down their rushing attack. Who they got? They got him, and they got Pierce, who touched the ball like 6 times all year.
Yeah.
So I think that there's an opportunity for us to be able to make them one-dimensional. And if that's the case, I think we have a really good chance of winning. And I know people, you might be saying, how can you be we? Yeah, well, I live in Chicago. Well, I'm a Chicago Bears fan. Let me say that. Yeah. But I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan from the 60s.
Yes,
so
sir.
I remember Ed Podolak and Len Dawson.
Baby.
Otis Taylor. I had Otis Taylor's jersey, that. Yeah. So don't try to shortchange me. My wife gives me that too. Oh, well, you're a bandwagon. No, I remember when the Chiefs were horrible. I remember when Montana came and we lost the one playoff game that we should have won. And I remember all of that stuff. But I've been a Chiefs fan through all of that. So I can say we for the AFC and I can say we for the NFC. And my partner here, we already have a standing date that if Kansas City and the Bears make the playoff or make the Super Bowl, we're going. I don't care if the tickets are $10,000. We'll figure out a way to get there. I'll get up inside one of those little hot dog carts so they can just wheel me around, and then I'll come out inside of the Super Bowl. So we're waiting on that.
Well, speaking of bandwagon fans, let's get to the Ravens.
This is your other side. This is your other side of the coin, isn't it?
Oh, I give a lot of trash to these fans around here because these guys are like, "You're a Kansas City fan." I'm like, "Yeah, I grew up there. I'm not a bandwagon fan." Hey, Ravens, you guys turn on your team the minute it goes upside down when you guys lose to the Steelers. Well, guess what? This weekend you get to prove yourselves. Lamar gets to earn that paycheck if he gets this win.
Well, and they lost to him earlier in the year too.
Yes, sir.
So Lamar, I think I saw a stat where he's either 1-4 or 0-4 against the Steelers. So this has been one of those things, this monkey on the back that he needs to get off, like Steve Young needed to get that monkey off his back, 30, 40 years ago. So Lamar, you better show up because this is his opportunity to solidify that he is a great quarterback. But every time he gets to this point, he seems to choke.
Well, this isn't just for the division. It's not only for the division, it's at home. So you've already proven that you choked at home last year to my Chiefs. Well, guess what? This is called a redemption tour for the Ravens. If they don't show up here, you got some questions to ask, not just your fan base, but even your coaching staff. Because, hey, if you can't pull it off against the Steelers, which is your own division, you got to play them twice. You've already lost to Russell Wilson, mind you.
The resurgence of Russ.
When this was supposed to be your year, Ravens, to kind of clean the division, you better prove it. Because honestly, if it isn't, then guess what? The Steelers do clinch. That's what makes it even more interesting in that North.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not sure they have the wherewithal to do this.
I have to believe that the Ravens offensively will show up because they have for the last few weeks, and they will continue to do so. The real question for me is how many points you're going to give up because your Ravens defense has stunk this year, fully and executed. Like you can see it in every game. Regardless of who they played, they've surrendered way too many points, way too many easy drives, everything else. This is not
they're like the Bengals.
Defense.
Yeah, they're like the Bengals. Totally agree.
So I think there's two factors in play. One, I think the Ravens offense will continue to click, and it's Derrick Henry, everything else, it's working well. It's going to continue to go. Bateman's catching the ball. They're doing things the right way. Here's the X factor. That's Steelers defense. TJ Watt and the boys, if they are healthy, they will slow down Lamar because it is cold out here again, and this is their type of weather, their type of division, everything else. Steelers have been there, done that, and Mike Tomlin does an excellent job game planning. He figures it out.
One of the best ever at game planning.
Now, I can't say that for John Harbaugh because John Harbaugh gets the offense going, but our defense, there's no stars anymore on this Ravens defense. You're supposed to have it. You have
one. I can't name. Oh, I'm sorry, Roquan. But
Roquan's
honestly,
there.
How often have you heard his name in the last 5 weeks? Roquan's
been dead silent this year. Yeah, Roquan's been dead silent this year. Now, and I'll give you the offseason treatment. Patrick Queen, who was a big stud for the Ravens, is now the other guy with the Steelers.
Yep. And that means something because he knows. I mean, I don't think there are any secrets between these two teams. They play twice a year and have done this for, ever.
One of the most established coaches in the world, no question.
Yeah, so they have the 2 longest tenured coaches, so they know a lot about each other. This is a will of the men on the field and who wanted more. That's what this is all about. And that's why I'm a little scared that the Ravens aren't the ones who want it more. And you mentioned TJ Watt, who's also injured, but he played and he doesn't have an injury designation. That guy is a wrecking crew. And I'm sorry, but maybe there's just, and I'm going to say this in a tongue-in-cheek way, so please nobody say, oh my God. I don't know where they get these farm-raised white boys, who brothers who can play ball, but you got the Bosas, you got the Watts, and I'm telling you, big brother, little brother, it doesn't matter. They're all just wreckers of the game, and these are the kind of guys who can actually change the momentum, the flow of a game in one play.
No, I want to see grinded out football, which is I think what we're going to see honestly on the field. I think it's going to be first team to maybe 24 that probably wins this game in some fashion or another. Who wants to see a hard hit between TJ Watt and Derrick Henry?
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that. This is what I think has been the downfall of John Harbaugh and how his team plays. You're right that he does generally have the offense where they need to be, and the defense is the soft spot on the team. However, I will present this. Last year, the year before, even this year, with Derrick Henry now, this year, they have gone away from running.
They've abandoned the run.
And I'm trying to understand that. And don't get me wrong, the third down back does a great job. But what you do with the running game, I don't care if you get 2 yards on the first 10 runs. Tackling Derrick Henry is a chore.
Exactly.
And if you do that 10 times, that 11th time, you might not want to do it as vigorously and as aggressively as you did the first 10.
Yeah, I don't know when the Ravens decided to abandon their entire persona of what it used to be like when Jamal Lewis was here, right?
Remember when he was, oh my God, smash ball. That's right. Even the other guy, who is the other guy, Ray Rice, beat his wife, Ray Rice.
Rice, Jamal Lewis, Jamal Charles.
And even when we had I'm not a we there. Let me correct that. When they had Gus Edwards was knocking people down too. I don't understand why they get away from that, because if they can do that effectively in the first half, they're going to be even more effective in the second half. You control the clock, you have time of possession, you do all of the things you need to do. And if Tucker just stops, gets his head out of his butt and actually makes field goals like he's been doing throughout his career, they would have won a couple of other games. They would have beaten the Steelers that game too, because I think he missed like 2 field goals and an extra point that game.
I will noticeably point out that he is a spokesman for a huge local gas station chain here called Royal Farms. Noticeably, he has not been on TV.
Nope. And he better get his
Achilles heel. He's been the Achilles heel that's cost him games this year. And that's what's interesting, because you're talking about one of the most sure-footed kickers in NFL history.
Yes.
Which now, by the way, Harrison Butker took over.
Yes. Hello.
We got nicknames for every kicker around here. We got Dicker the Kicker. We got Butt Kicker, as my son calls him. Tucker is a bad name. We're not going to say that one. Yeah.
Well, no. With Trucker.
Tucker
the Trucker.
Yeah, this is driving
the mother trucker.
The truck off the cliff is what's happening this year, unfortunately. You can't hit anything for some reason. But that, honestly, it's going to come down to that kind of ground and pound game, I think. And like I said, first team to 24 wins. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Ravens win. I think they're motivated enough. They're coming off a very easy win last week off the Giants. The offense is clicking. I like their chances of putting numbers on the board. It's going to come down to that defense, but here's the thing with Steelers. For some reason, in the last couple of weeks, they too have I don't know if they've abandoned the run as much, but
it hasn't been as effective.
But it hasn't been as effective between what I expect with Najee and Warren. I expect ground pound destroy all day.
Yep, they haven't been able to do that.
Now the X factor, Russell Wilson's getting a lot of balls out to Mr. Freiermuth, which is interesting, which I love because I have him on a fantasy team.
And he's their second best receiver, and since Pickens is out again this week, and that is another reason why the Ravens should win, because the Pittsburgh Steelers don't have their downfield threat.
Yeah.
You should be able to control the clock and smash them in your house.
Yep. No, I totally agree. So for that reason, so again, Chiefs game, is at 12 or 1. The Steelers-Ravens game is a 4 p.m. Eastern game. I think the 3 Central game.
It's 3:30 Central
3:30
and 12
Central.
o'clock Central. Yep, tomorrow for those.
Which is interesting because in that same window, you also have the Longhorn game for college football.
Yes, you do, which is probably going to be one of the better games.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You're going to have, like I said, full slate of sports on Saturday. It's going to be a fun weekend. If you're not out shopping or whatever for Christmas, just sit back and buckle up. It's going to be a fun day.
That's right, baby.
Yeah,
that's right. Get your popcorn ready.
Get your popcorn ready, indeed. So no, that'll be a fun one. So like I said, my added bonus, I'll be in Dallas, Texas, watching all these crazy maniacs, watching the Chiefs, watching the Steelers and Ravens, and then watching the Longhorns.
Longhorns, yeah, that's going to be something. You should have a great time.
Yep. So that'll be good. And then, of course, like I said, the rest of the college football slate. But yeah, that's the 2 games Saturday, and then Sunday.
So on Sunday.
Yep.
Let's go down those. I mean, there are some games I feel like don't really warrant more than 4 or 5 words.
Yep.
But there are some games I think are relevant.
Yep.
In the playoff picture.
Let's go quick and dirty. So Rams, Jets. I'm going Rams there, I think.
I'm going Rams as well. Rams need it because they can make the playoffs. The Jets are the Jets. So they have no fuel. And basically, they're just trying to make it to the end of the season. I really do think as hard as some guys may play, half of those guys aren't playing that hard because they are disgusted with what they've seen from coaching, from Aaron Rodgers, and from the leadership of the ownership.
100% agree. And by the way, don't give the satisfaction of Aaron Rodgers watching that documentary that came out on Netflix. That dude does not deserve the attention.
I would never do it.
Yeah.
First off, I'm a Bears fan, so I'm not a Packers fan.
Right.
I didn't like him because he's always the smartest person in the room, at least so he thinks. I got inoculated. He's just, full of himself, and I'm not giving him any kind of rep and don't want to talk about him anymore. So let's move on.
Yep. Now let's move on. So here's a good game I'll touch on real quick. Eagles Commanders. It's in the 1 o'clock slate.
That's going to be the best game on Sunday.
Yep.
And I still think, regardless of the Commanders being at home, they did a great job at the beginning of the year. But boy, have you heard much from them lately? And they are falling in the division.
But I also kind of sneakily say that Dan Quinn is going to get the troops fired up a little bit for this game because he knows what's on the line. It's a divisional run for the entire NFC East at this point for the next 3 weeks, which is going to be kind of fun to watch the rivalries and stuff like that. Don't want to pay attention to the Cowboys. Cowboys are Cowboys. I don't care.
Yeah.
But Commanders, I would love to see the Commanders get into the playoffs. For that reason,
I would too.
I want to see them show up this game, and I want to see them contend. But honestly, the Eagles are looking good.
Looking real good. And I have to say this. We were talking about the great coaches, John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin. I'll put Kyle Shanahan in there, even though the San Francisco 49ers are having a down year. Remember, they had a lot of injuries, people. Stop blaming this guy. I have to give Nick Sirianni some credit. People have been dogging this guy from the get-go. But if you look at his record over
the local media in Philly is creating all the drama to destroy this team. That's what I really still can't understand. It's not the national press at all.
The national press has been giving it to him too. Get Up, they were talking about him talking to the fans and him destroying the team. And is he crazy?
Starting with the local press in Philly trying to start their own drama. I'm like, guess what? The last time you started drama in Philly when Terrell Owens was around, you guys didn't win the Natty. So guess what?
So, I mean, I have to say he's one of the better coaches in the league. I don't care what drama they're trying to drum up, if it is or isn't relevant. What, drama between the quarterback and the wide receiver, all of that stuff. They just keep winning, folks. They keep winning. And actually, they're doing what you want all teams to do at this time of year. Their trajectory is like this. That's what you want going into the playoffs. And I feel like even with the Commanders and, McLaren and a few other weapons that they have, I just don't see them beating the Eagles, even at home. I don't.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, the Eagles' offense is clicking so well multidimensionally that it makes it tough to stop them regardless of who you are right now. You've got to have a historic defense to make a bold statement right now against the Eagles. So that's right. I like the Eagles winning this game, unfortunately. I'd like to see the Commanders make the playoffs still, but I don't think it's going to happen this week.
I don't think so either. And I just got to say one thing, or a couple of things. The Giants, which we'll talk about very briefly, you guys should be kicking the owner's butt because show me the Quan. That's what I want. Show me the Quan. Say Quan, y'all. Say Saquon, because that's the man who should get the MVP, but won't because Josh is going to get it.
Yeah.
But I think he means more to the Eagles and their transformation versus, like, don't get me wrong, Josh means a lot to the Buffalo Bills. But look at what Saquon has done to the Eagles team.
If there's one reason why the Eagles have succeeded the last 9 weeks after the bye week and all the quote unquote drama behind the scenes, I think it's because of Saquon. I think if it was anything like last year and you didn't have Saquon on the team, you'd be in the same rut you had last year.
Yeah, and they had Swift,
same room, right?
Yeah, they had Swift and they had Greenwell. So exchange Swift for Saquon, and look at where you are.
I'm thinking not just in talent. I'm thinking more leadership on the side. I'm thinking Saquon.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah,
and I think I sent you a video. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah. On the sideline, for everybody who doesn't know this, on the sideline, Saquon is in his has an opportunity to break Eric Dickerson's record. He has, been the focal point of their offense. He was sitting down during a game, and Nick Sirianni came over to him and said, "I want you to get this. I want you to get this. If you want to go back in, I'll put you back in." He said, "No, let the other guys eat.
Let Gainwell do his thing."
That's the guy I want on my team.
Yep.
Because he's a team player, not looking for individual accolades and, being the star. He just wants to win because he played on the Giants, and one thing they didn't do was win.
Yep. No, like I said, if for some reason the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year, which I know Chiefs are going to win, then honestly, you got to give Saquon the governorship of the state of Pennsylvania. Between Penn State and Philly, he will have resurrected that entire damn state.
Great point. That is a great point because he put Penn State on the map, or at least kept them in, national championship consideration the whole time he was there.
This guy's a game changer in life. Yeah, he's a game changer, and he's the reason the Eagles are the Eagles. There's no question there. So, now, like I said, I think the Eagles will win. I'd like to see the Commanders make a run maybe after next week in the rest of the division. Hopefully, they'll make it out, and we'll see where that goes.
Yep. Let's throw some games in here real quick just to get by them. Yep. Still in the early morning slate, Titans, Colts. I think the Titans are going to win that because the Titans, despite their offensive shortcomings, have a really good defense.
Yep, and honestly, the big oopsies of all the Colts we've seen lately with the drop balls and all that stuff, they're just not going to overcome that kind of stuff.
Well, and one quick thing. To me, I was talking about this. I wore a Mitch Trubisky shirt, one of my Bears shirts, during our Christmas party because my ugly sweater wasn't washed. And I put on my ugly Bears jersey, and it got the biggest laugh because of all of my Bears jersey. That's one of the ugliest. Awesome. And here's the reason why I brought that up. How many games did Anthony Richardson play in college?
Good point.
Same thing as Mitch Trubisky. They picked this guy, and I'm sorry, maybe I'm missing something, but when does a quarterback complete less than 60% of their passes? This guy was completing less than 50% of his passes. Yep. That's not a quarterback, y'all. That's a running back. Yeah. That's what that is.
I call this the budget trash version of Jameis Winston. At least when Jameis get motivational speaking, this guy, absolute trash, does not belong in the NFL. I'm sorry to say.
I'm not sure, and I'm sure that they're going to be walking back on their whole process when they start looking at quarterbacks in the future because they messed up there.
Honestly, I hate to say it, but they might be cursed because ever since the whole Peyton Manning retirement / go away, they had Andrew Luck, but Andrew Luck unfortunately fell on medical times, all that. Granted, that's their own fault too because they let him get smashed 60 times in one season.
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly right. You're totally right, and they've done nothing since. So I totally agree with you. Let's see one more game we could sort of move past quickly. A couple games. No, what's that? Yeah, Cardinals Panthers was one, and then the Bears Lions. So
I'm going with the Gnome. The Gnome's going to do his thing.
Oh my God! You know what? When we sort of get some more on this show, we need to play that skit because that is hilarious, and I think the Gnome gets it done as well. Yes. Oh man,
that dude is on fire right now. They might sneak in the playoffs too, so it'll be interesting to see how they make their run too. Giants Falcons. The Michael Penix era begins.
Yes, it does, and rightfully so. I'm sorry, but 2 Chainz is not doing it anymore. Kirk 2 Chainz, he's just not doing it. I'm hopeful that Penix. Well, and you know what's funny? Talk about timing for the Falcons. One, they need to win to get into the playoffs.
Yep.
They do have the tiebreaker of beating Tampa Bay twice this year. So if they can win and they get one Tampa Bay loss, they're right there.
They're in. Yeah.
But the timing of this couldn't be any more perfect for the Falcons. They're putting in a rookie quarterback against maybe the second worst team in the league.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's gonna be a good. I think it'll be interesting for that reason, though. See, the reason I think that is because at the beginning of the year, you would think, okay, you drafted a rookie quarterback who was decent in college. I don't think he was exceptional; he was decent.
I agree.
You brought in Kirko 2 Chainz. Has Kirko mentored him enough to where this kid is ready? You think, or do you think he's being thrown deer in the headlights?
I'm gonna go with the latter, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
They made a huge big deal about this when they drafted Penix as high as they drafted him, and Kirk was not happy about it.
Exactly.
And he wasn't hiding that fact.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is more like maybe even a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers kind of thing, where Brett was like, you're not even letting me, like call my shots as I walk out the door. Yeah. You're going to try to push this guy on me and force me out. And I feel like Kirk 2 Chainz might not have long in the Atlanta Falcons organization. And I don't think that he's been sharing his wisdom of his tenure in the NFL. I think Penix is going to be doing this on the fly.
I agree. So that's what makes it interesting. Now, the Giants still have a defense. They have Kayvon Thibodeau. They've got a defense. Yeah,
they got a couple of guys.
And I still see Atlanta probably winning this game, but honestly, Atlanta's defense hasn't shown me anything this year. Now, I'm not saying that Tommy the Goon DeVito is going to somehow go out there and put up 40, and nor is his agent going to come on the field and somehow knock a guy. But But
you still got to like the guy. I still like the guy.
Yeah, I still got to like the guy. But at the end of the day, like you said, the Falcons need this win to stay in the hunt. So there's a lot of pressure on that. I think they're going to lean on Bijan. I like the Falcons. Yeah.
I know they're going to lean on Bijan, and I don't expect Penix to do more than run and throw 5-yard passes. That's what I'm expecting from this game. But if they score 20 points, they'll beat the Giants because I don't know how many times the Giants are scoring more than 20 points this year.
Valid point. Yep.
Next, let's see. I think the last one to round out the 12 o'clock slot is the Lions Bears.
Yeah, there's also Browns Bengals, but let's get on Lions and Bears. That one's pretty easy. Bears.
Do we need to talk about this?
Too easy.
There's nothing more to talk about. Sorry that David Montgomery got injured. They're saying that he may still be able to be back for the playoffs. I hope that's the case. People are saying, the Lions with all their injuries don't look like Super Bowl contenders now. Bullshit. I'll call that right now. I'll call it out bullshit because the Lions have a lot more.
40 a game. It's going to take another 40 to put up and beat them. So
exactly.
Facts. Yeah.
They've got more offensive power than most teams in the league. And even without Montgomery, they still got Gibbs. They still got all sorts of options from a receiver standpoint, especially since they added Patrick, because that guy is like 6'5", runs, stretches, all of that stuff. You still got Laporta. You still got Amon-Ra. You got, anything that's named Ra. I'm just all about that. So I just feel like there's just no way the Bears are going to win. They might play close because they seem to play close divisional games, but they're going to lose because they're the Bears.
Well, the Bears have to put up 40 points. They're not going to put up 40 yards. So it's going to be a whole different story. Yeah.
Great line, baby. Great line. They might put up 40 yards total in the first half.
Yeah, in the first half.
Total.
In the first half.
And running. Yeah. Browns Bengals.
Yes.
I would love to say this was the kind of game you would have expected at the beginning of this year with the Browns defense and Deshaun Watson and coming back and all of that. Both of these teams, they're going in different directions, but they both sort of suck. The Bengals don't suck on offense, but their defense gives up 40 points a game. They can't win a game.
I think Joe Burr and Chase, still put up their numbers. They'll win the game because
they'll win the game.
Yeah, but this is just ugly. Plus, now the Cleveland Browns benched Jameis. They're putting DTR back. I'm like, are you kidding me?
You know what, though? I don't blame them because as good as his speeches are to be inspirational before the game, what he should have done when he was praying to God was say, God, please help me stop throwing the ball to the other team. He didn't specify. He just said, please help me with these pick sixes. Now, granted, most of his throws for interceptions are pick sixes, but he should have been more specific. Sit your ass down.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
Go to Cleveland and see if you can find some lobsters and crabs that you can take from the store for free. All right, go do that.
I hear the Ohio River has delicious delights. Yeah,
yeah. That's nothing. There's nothing in that river I'm going to be eating. I'll tell you that.
No. All right, so we can get to the afternoon slate here. Vikings Seahawks. Implications on both sides. Vikings need to stay in the hunt for that division. Seahawks need to stay in the hunt for their own division. Seahawks are on a downward trajectory, in my opinion, right now. They need something to kickstart them. Geno obviously hasn't shown it. They've got injuries to Kenneth Walker still. Charbonnet
and his replacement and his backup.
Yeah, no Pop and Charbonnet either. You know, it's yeah. You know, and you know, fact of the matter is Metcalf is not a team leader, so that doesn't help.
Team leader, he's not even a team player.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah.
You know, so that guy just he's a me physical specimen and all, still a me guy. Yeah. He's pouty, he's emotional in the wrong ways on the sideline. You know, sorry, but this is why many people don't make it in the NFL. You might have all the talent in the world, but you got to be a real man, and he's just manly.
No, I'm going Sam Darnold and the boys on the road in the 12th man, getting this win. It'll be a big one for the Vikings too, because it'll set them up for the rest of the next 2 weeks. And especially that Week 18 showdown against the Lions, which will be the fun one.
I'm gonna say if I had an upset special,
that might be the one. It might be the one.
This would be the one that I would call the upset special. It's in Seattle. We know they're known for their 12th man and noise and all of that stuff. Yeah. The Vikings, as good as they are, there are times that they look pedestrian on offense. Right. And even though what's his name, Brian, can't remember his name, has reinvigorated the defense.
Flores, yep.
Yeah, and he's been able to show different looks at the line of scrimmage, and these guys are hustling back to change what looks to a quarterback to be a blitz, to be a zone, and all of that stuff. Great for you. Yeah. I just have a feeling that this is where Geno and those guys, they still have a chance to win their division. Yeah. And I think they might win their division if they win this game.
Quite possible. Quite possible.
So I'm going to say that I'm going to give this one to the Seattle Seahawks. There's no Minnesota Viking horn here. They're playing in Seattle, so there's no
Skull. Right. Yeah.
Bills Patriots. Do we need to talk much about this?
Josh Allen puts up a 400 piece, I think.
Yeah, I could see that. I can see him doing another one of those.
Yeah, he solidifies his MVP campaign. That's all this game is for at the end of the day, and to stay healthy at the end of the day.
Agree. I think the best thing that New England or the Patriots have had as far as being newsworthy is the fact that Bill went to North Carolina.
Yeah, sounds about right.
He's not even coaching the team anymore. That's like the most noteworthy thing for the Patriots.
So true.
Jaguars, Raiders.
Who's watching this game?
I don't know. They should have put this one in England too, so at least the Jaguars would be near their own.
Have a chance of winning. You don't have Goldilocks there playing for quarterback for the Jags. You don't have anything for the Raiders. Max Crosby's taking the season off at this point, unfortunately.
And don't blame him for it.
Don't blame him for it.
Because all he's going to do is get injured and a cause that has no real outcome other than a loss.
Yep. No, nobody's watching.
I got the Jaguars in that game.
Then you got Tua and the boys against the 49ers. The 49ers are now down to their fourth string running back because Durendo's injured this week.
They still got a pretty good defense, though. They're still ranked up there defensively.
I like the Niners winning on the road in Miami because honestly, Miami just hasn't gotten their shit together, and I think you need to fire, Mr. 30-year-old tech com guy. That they got to, I don't even know how to. Sorry, that better description. 1970s drug dealer from the Miami streets. Sorry, yeah.
I was about to say because we talked about this earlier. I wish we could flash that picture up where he's sitting up. He's got his hair is all like drippy and shit. Like, dude, you look more grimy than a football coach. Like he came in with a hello. Let me tell you, get my pencil protector, my pocket protector. Oh, here's my pencil. And now he's like, yo, man, what's up? He went like Miami Vice on their ass. Thought he was Don Johnson and shit. If he put on white on white. Maybe he'd do a better job.
South Beach glow up. He did his South Beach glow up after becoming Mr. Dorcas coming in, and
well, here's something
needs to go away.
Well, and here's something that I think just to say about when we're talking about coaches like this, I don't think nice coaches make it anymore. You need to have a little fire. You need to be able to juice your team up. You need to be able to give them a little grit and a little spit and some shit. And I don't feel like he's that guy. Who are the ones that are doing it? This Dan Campbell, spit shit, bite your kneecaps off. Jim Harbaugh's got this effervescence about him when it comes to being excited. That it's infectious with his team. We talked about two other great coaches who know how to fire their team up. This guy, he came into Miami. It looked sort of good. Granted, who could say that the quarterback's going to suffer concussions and maybe he's never going to return to his previous form. But they still got Waddle.
Well, I was going to say, forget the quarterback. Think about how much money you've spent on that entire team, defense and offense, mind you, and you still can't get it done. Now, you brought in a kid, literally a kid at the age of 32, 33, whatever the heck he is, and Mr. Little Analytics guy, lived in the corner probably in school, whatever.
Yep. The square root of 35 is
this is the quintessential pocket protector you brought in that's smaller than a kicker, mind you. I'm sorry, but in NFL history, no coach who's smaller than a kicker has ever succeeded.
I agree with you right there, too. And as much as he might be a good guy, as I was saying earlier, I think you need somebody who's got a little spit and a little grit and some shit, and he doesn't have those qualities.
No, if you want to go play analytics ball, if you want to go play analytics ball like he's been, trying to, sell the system on and stuff like that, go back to college and prove it first. That's what I say.
Yeah, I'm
and
with
there's
you.
Plenty of college jobs open for him this next year once they get rid of him. But Miami needs to clean house.
Or do what other coaches do when they get fired. They end up going back to where their roots were.
The coordinator
or offense coordinator.
Think about that coaching tree real quick. So it was him, Shanahan, McVay, all on the Redskins
young
staff at one point.
Yes, they were. And they're all young, good coaches.
Yes.
But I think McVay's already shown he's got some hardware to prove it.
Yep.
Shanahan, while he doesn't have the hardware, has shown the consistency.
Yeah.
What has he done?
Yeah, exactly. So no, that's where I think it's time to clean house in Miami. Needless to say, I think Shanahan takes it to his old buddy in this one very easily.
We got 2 more games, and I feel like one of them is very interesting. The other one I think is just a walkover, in my opinion. And let's talk about that one first, even though it's Monday night. Packers Saints. Saints won't even have Kamara.
Yeah. No, they're not. They don't stand a chance in Green Bay. Let's put it that way.
No,
Green Bay's on the right cylinders. You just mentioned like a team going on the uptick. That's one of them right now.
I totally agree. Love has been playing better ball.
Yep.
Plus, the Saints car is broken. I love that one. That one
Saints
guy
car is broken.
He put that on that rap. That was on
the guy that's not going to get enough pub for like MVP or anything like that. Josh Jacobs, hell of a season.
I love the fact that he came from the Raiders, and some people were downing him. And I tell you what, I think he's done a better job than Aaron Jones was doing prior to him coming to Green Bay. And I think that's been a big lift for them to be able to hand the ball off to him 20, 30 times and know that he's going to impact the game.
He opens up that wide receiver game. They've got all those weapons.
Exactly.
He opens it up, and that's exactly what they needed. They brought in the right guy, and they got the right results. No question.
Yeah, the play action means something if you play action with Josh Jacobs. Double J, J square, whatever you want to call my man. Go ahead, Josh. You're doing the job.
Balling. Yeah, dude balling.
Last but not least,
Bucks and Cowboys. Oh boy,
this is another one of those trap games.
It is. I mean, Baker and the boys. I love it. He's playing shorthanded all season, but
they're hot too.
They're hot too. Their defense is coming up alive. I mean, they're probably going to win the division, I hope, over Kirko and the 2 Chainz kids, but I don't know. It's going to be close because obviously the 2 losses don't help. Against them head to head. This is a must-win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Agreed.
For the Cowboys, you're still trotting out. I don't even know who that quarterback is.
I don't know. I know Cooper Kupp, but Cooper Rush. His father was an old 49er that used to go out and do this with the rocks to see if he could find gold. Who is that?
I mean, Cooper Rush strikes me as a guy, from the literally the mining days, and maybe I think my son called it best. He's one of the Trolls dolls, I think.
He does have one thing on his side. If you look at him as a backup, he actually has a winning record as a backup quarterback.
Winning record as a backup, and honestly, the guy that's kind of come alive in the last couple of weeks for the Cowboys, interesting, is Rico Suave back there.
Rico Suave, Mr. Short but speedy. And what happened to Ezekiel? Jerry, Jerry, would you at least come on and say I made a mistake because I gave him all that money. He turned into a dud. And then I went and picked him back up after New England let him go. No, does he even get a carry game now? I know in our fantasy there were people picking him up thinking he was going to do something. The stupidest pick you could have ever made.
Not even a goal line stand. Like he's big enough to be a goal line stand.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Plus, guys don't wear crop tops.
Yeah,
will you just stop it? That's not a guy thing.
That's a whole different world. I think the Cowboys defense has quit on them. So that's the reason I'm going to still go with Baker and the boys in this one.
I feel like, didn't they lose last week and they lost in some horrific way again?
Yeah.
I think that was the last straw. But if there's another one of those trap games like I was talking about with the Seahawks, I feel like the Cowboys are at home.
True. But
and
Cowboys are at home, but you have to remember for the Cowboys, there is no home field advantage in that stadium. There are more fans. There's always more visiting fans at Cowboy Stadium than there are actual home fans. It's been true for the last 6 years.
I could see that, and I was thinking more of just their record. Going back to the playoffs of last year, they lost at home. They were used to be like a juggernaut at home, and they've lost. I don't know. Did they win? But I think they won one game at home this year, something like that.
The Giants.
So you're right about the home field advantage, but I'm thinking maybe the players get up. Maybe it's loud enough. You're right about having more fans on the opposite team. Yeah. We'll see what happens. I'm just saying there have been times when I've seen Baker not look so great.
True.
And if the Dallas Cowboys can just halfway stop the run, they potentially have a chance. That's been their Achilles heel. Even when they were good, they couldn't stop the run.
Baker likes doing flag planting, as he's mentioned before. He likes putting a stamp on places. The one place he has never put a stamp on, even in college, unfortunately. Well, no, never mind. I take that back. He did that as a Sooner.
I was gonna say, didn't he play there as a Sooner? Yeah,
as a Sooner, he did plant it on Texas's field. So I got to give him credit. I think he's back for revenge. He puts his mark on the state of Texas again.
You know what? As much as I'm not sure we talked about flag planting, I'm not sure about that. But if Baker Mayfield does that, I'm gonna laugh my butt off.
And I mean, the guy came out publicly this week and he said that they need to allow it because it's the college thing, and I get all that. State of Ohio came back and said, "Yeah, we're gonna make it illegal."
Okay, that's going way out there, but okay.
Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, what?
Here's the funny thing: if he actually did the flag planting there on the Star, unlike when Terrell did it, I feel like nobody might come out to hit him.
Nope. There's some undertones there for sure.
That's where the Cowboys are. I feel there isn't that love for the Star. Or and pride that they had in the past.
If it was like Des Bryant still, on the roster, he might come out and do it. But I'm sorry, CeeDee Lamb ain't doing it.
No,
Deron Bland ain't doing it.
Nope. Hey, real quick, we could talk about
Micah Parsons will have already been in the locker room before it happens.
He will be. He's already not only fielding questions from the media, but doing a side podcast at the same time.
Yep.
You got to love it. I'm trying to find the schedule for the 12-team playoff.
Oh, yeah. So it starts tonight. Tonight's games, I believe is it the Notre Dame game? I can double check here. I believe. Top events.
Things like SMU against Penn State.
Tonight's the Penn State game. Yeah, so sorry. Tonight's the Penn State game. Let me pull this up. Tonight. Or sorry, no, that's tomorrow. Sorry. So tomorrow. Where the hell?
So what's tonight?
Yeah, there's a game tonight. Where the heck is it? Okay,
Indiana Notre Dame.
Funny enough, they were showing ticket prices for the initial 4 games. Mm-hmm. This is the most expensive ticket. Cheapest tickets are $1,000 because the in-state rivalry. This is gonna be a good game to watch for that reason. It's a nice little Cinderella story for Kirk Cignetti and the coach at Indiana and the resurgence of the program and NIL.
Love that story.
I love that. I've always been anti-Notre Dame. I'm going to continue to be anti-Notre Dame. Go Hoosiers.
I grew up because in the Midwest, they just put Notre Dame on. Yeah. So I grew up thinking, the Golden Dome and all of that. You know what? I've learned to hate them. And I'm going to tell you something. Just last night, I couldn't sleep that well. And they had the 30 for 30 on about the U, baby. The U. And I'm telling you, it was such a great that was a great time.
There is not a better story in college football history than the U, in my opinion.
And the way they changed their leadership from can't think of the guy's name right now who started it, who came in with his corncob pipe. He created a culture there and in Miami that didn't exist. It was a lot of turmoil and conflict and prejudice and racism that was part of that time. Yeah. And he changed the culture of Miami, handed it over to Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson just elevated it to another stratosphere. And then Dennis Erickson, of all people, who didn't do so well in Seattle, but he did do well in Miami. He also kept that tradition going.
I can point out to Dennis Erickson, look at the 2001 Miami Hurricane roster. And part of the U was on that. That whole nasty lineup.
Crazy. And honestly, I would have to say for almost 3-4 years, I would say 95% of those players made it to the pros.
He had 34 draft picks that year. 34 draft picks.
That's crazy. That is crazy and unheard of.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for a couple of funny sort of calls, which, you know, the whole nation was against Miami.
Oh yeah.
And that was back when the Golden Domers were calling them convicts, and everybody else in the world were calling them convicts and highlighting the fact that, and here's the funny part. Yeah, did they do a little bit more showboating than they needed to do? Yeah, that's on you. Yeah, were some of them arrested for gun possession and doing drugs and all that? Yeah, that's on you. But when they were on the field and the way they played, they were showing some of the commentators and the, you know, people from the news agencies and what they were, you know, reporting on this team, and it was all negative. Even though they were beating the number one teams by 30 points, 40
they were
points.
beating the tar out of everybody up and down the field. The interesting thing is, you had a conglomeration of a lot of people that came from really underprivileged backgrounds across the board.
No, not underprivileged. Ultra underprivileged.
True. Now, the funny part is if you go visit the campus of the University of Miami, it's in one of the richest areas of all of Miami, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, and that was what they were saying. What was it, Coral Gables or whatever?
Coral Gables,
they were saying they were coming from I forget what town it was called. It was something town.
Flocka. That's where half these players come from.
but these guys, when they say poverty, one of the guys they've had like Benny Blaze. They had all of these guys that you knew from the pros. They had them talking, you know, about Miami. They used to have, when Miami was so bad and the first coach came in, they had to get people in the stands. Burger King was offering a deal that if you could buy a big, whatever it was called, not Big Mac, obviously that's McDonald's, a Whopper, thank you. If you bought a Whopper, they would give you 2 tickets to the game. These guys were so poor, they said, we only ended up seeing 1 or 2 games because we couldn't afford a Whopper.
The Whopper, yeah.
Couldn't afford the Whopper. Now, this isn't the Whopper of today's day that probably cost you $8. This is when they used to sell 2 Whoppers for $5.
$3, yeah, exactly, yeah.
So, but that's saying something, and the fact, and I kudos to them because they turned that program around. They brought in these inner city kids who had nowhere else to go and who were just going to end up being a statistic.
Yep.
And he helped them learn how to, one, play together because they came from different places of Miami and probably in different gangs and all that stuff. And they played together and they brought Miami, the way people saw Miami back then, that was the place to be. Then they had Luke Skywalker and the 2 Live crew joining in. And it was a vibe down there like nothing else. And that was they were showing pictures and had comments. These guys could go into clubs. And now remember, they're just like sophomores in high school or college. They're not even old enough. They were going to the best clubs in Miami, and the football, professional football players were standing in line
waiting for them. Yeah. Seriously, right?
That's telling you something, boy. That's a power right there. So they ruled Miami for like a 10-year period, and it was just an awesome
I will
story.
say the U is back. The U is coming back a little bit. They didn't make the playoff this year, but Cam Ward, best quarterback in the league, best quarterback in college football this year, no question.
Well, he was at the top of the Heisman Trophy predictions at the beginning of the year, but then it was sort of like
no. But what I'm glad to see is that recruitment's back at the U. So I think it's coming back slowly. We will be back.
So go the U. If you've never seen that, you got to watch it. I think it's like a 3-part series. I saw 2 of them yesterday. Man, it is amazing.
That is honestly one of the best quote unquote like comeback stories / development stories in all of sports. No question of that.
Yeah. And it's funny to see Michael Irvin when he was a little kid before he started doing cocaine and hanging out with Coke Horse. So and some of the others too. It was great to see it.
You had half of the Ravens Ravens Super Bowl champions all coming off that roster. That's what's scary.
Yeah.
And Reed. Old man Ed Reed was on that roster.
Ed Reed was this crap boy. That was the man and still is the man. And you know what's funny? They were showing, you know, when they always doing their stuff and dancing and everything. People don't remember this. Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, played on Miami during that time. He was one of those guys.
He was one of them dudes. He was a bench dude, but he was one of them dudes.
He was one of those dudes, and then he got an injury or something and ended up going into wrestling and then became one of the biggest actors that we have in today's world.
Star power on an alumni room. Like, seriously, from that class.
And then they'd have 2 Live in the background going, hey, we want some. So, hey, there's a great story behind that. I'll sort of close it out with this. On a business trip, we went down to we were doing some management training. We were down in Arizona,
Yep.
And one of the people we were with wanted to do karaoke, so we went down. It was in like Scottsdale, Phoenix area, whatever. And we went to this place. When we first walked in, this guy was doing a country crooner to like what's the song? I'm gonna give you up. What's the never gonna let you down.
Rick,
yeah. And there's like a thing. There's a thing with that. Like now they use that. Like you're getting Rick
roll somebody. Yeah.
Rick roll. That's what it is. That's it. Yep. So he comes up. He's crooning, and there are like 3 women there, and he's like doing his thing. He knew he was like the regular. So we sat and we listened to a couple songs, started doing a couple shots, and we got them to play to live crew. Hey, we want some. So this came right after he was doing his country croon, and then all of a sudden it just lit up, and we're just all over the place, jumping on chairs, going, hey! And we got them to be in, and they were loving it. We were doing shots with them, and before the end of the night, we became the best of friends. And I'm telling you, there was a definite stark difference between the people who were there and us coming in. Yeah. But this shows you, music, sports,
music brings everyone together.
And it brought us all together. We had the best time, but you would have never known that when we first walked into the place. That's for sure.
On that note, the resurrection of Snoop and Dre is back 20 years ago and back today. What's old is gold again.
It's been a lot of that. What's old is new, and
because we're going back to the good times.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, young folks, I appreciate the fact that you want to put your stamp on the world, but give some credit to what you guys think are irrelevant, prehistoric, classic. That's what was the foundation of what you're putting on today. Your language, your walk, your clothing, all of that, the way that your music, that all comes from back then. Give the oldies some of the credit. Take some of the credit yourself for making it what it is today. But give us some credit too.
That's why I respect Kendrick Lamar. If you look at his latest album, a lot of the musical undertones, all from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even I got Tupac.
Got to give credit. Although somebody says Tupac, Biggie, because that's one of the biggest discussions, I'm still a Biggie guy. I love my West Coast music.
Yeah, I'm a Pac guy.
I'm a Biggie guy, because if you just listen to how he rolled the Pac, here's the difference.
The lyrical genius on both of them is uncanny.
That's for sure. You cannot knock either one of them lyrically. Yeah. Pac was this educated young black man, son of a Black Panther.
He came from
He was a roadie for Digital Underground. and he became this guy, sort of like Jay-Z. People don't remember Jay-Z back in the rap days. He was just this little bald head, big lip dude that nobody really cared much about, and then he became Jay-Z. Tupac was the same, but he embraced this persona that was created for him, and that was the part that I didn't like. If you knew Tupac, this dude was a smart brother. That dude could tell you something about life that could help you understand it better and live a better one. But he decided to get into that other thing, became Suge Knight Jr., and it cost him his life. Yeah. And not that Biggie didn't have his life taken away, but Biggie was Biggie the whole time. Like everything he did, when he talked about, it was all a dream. I used to read, that was for real. Selling drugs outside his house to make sure his daughter, that was some real stuff. And that was the difference for me. Not knocking Tupac, because he's one of the great lyricists of all time.
Yeah, the storytelling of Biggie was a lot more real than what Tupac had. I will say that.
Yes, that was the difference for me. But again, not really, knocking Tupac. I'm just a Biggie guy.
Yep. Nope. Fair enough. But no, like I said, all these new age folks, they'll look back to your elders, because that's where the real music's at.
And that's where it is, man. Give your props where the props are due, and we'll give you your props too, because you were us we were you making our mark on the world, and you're doing the same thing now. So we're not mad at you. Keep being you, but give a little love back too. Yep,
absolutely. On that note, we say Tupac, Biggie, either way, we're brown and browner. We get along.
That's right, baby. It's all about one love for everybody.
That's right. On that note, we'll loop back together.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Happy holidays indeed to everyone. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we'll loop back after the holidays for sure. In the meantime, enjoy the sports this weekend. Enjoy life this weekend. Enjoy spending time, hopefully, with family and friends over the next week. And we'll be back. See you guys.